Why South Sudan? An Every Village podcast where we answer questions about the world's youngest nation. The question of the day is, who attends our annual leadership retreat? Hey everyone, this is Tiana Johnston, the host of this podcast called Why South Sudan? So today is number 89 on our podcast list. And I thought who better else to have on number 89 is Andrew Brown.
Hey, Tiana.
I just got to be creative in all my little intros, so.
I don't think that was very creative, but I think I've heard you say it before.
Well, at least 89.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, because I like to celebrate ones that are, like, different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's not be.
Well, neither of us were born in 1989, but Taylor Swift was.
That is true. Hey, there you go.
And so was Blake and Brad. So.
Oh, there we go. That's like a little fun fact for our listeners. And this is actually going to be airing on September 8th, 98. Oh, wait, no, that's 89. Sorry, I messed that up. Okay, anyways, we'll keep it going. All right, so we are going to be talking about our annual leadership retreat, which is known to you as your favorite week of the year.
It is. I mean, I've got other favorite weeks as well, so that's a little unfair. Like, I love Christmas week and, other
That's
things.
True.
But in terms of work, it's probably my favorite week of the year for work.
Yeah.
I do love it.
Why would you say it's your favorite time of the week?
Well, I've come to just truly love our South Sudanese leaders. I know them so well. I'm so proud of them. I've seen them grow over the years. We laugh a lot together. I could be in the room and not say anything, which is unusual for me, but just watch them have a good time with each other and watch them laugh. And even if they're speaking in Yidinka or whatever, not even know what they're saying, but just still love watching the dynamic. So that's, probably why I love it so much. But then also it's, it is the heartbeat of what we do. Every village exists to build South Sudan up as a nation for Christ. That starts by building up leaders for Christ, and that's what the leadership retreat is all about. Our work, yes, you could say it's radio, yes, you could say it's water, yes, you could say it's discipleship, but none of those things are going to happen well if the leaders aren't growing in the Lord and in their vision and in their capacity and in their love for one another. And all of it is for naught if we go about our work and forget our love for one another or forget the vision that God's called us to or whatever. We're just going to drift. And yet this is a re-anchoring every year for us to come back together. And it truly, it's one of the most important weeks, and thus it's one of my favorite weeks. So
when did y'all start doing the retreats? Because this wasn't always a thing.
No, we had done, I guess in 2016, I think, was our first year to do an annual radio training. And so back then I was in charge of our radio program. This was before I was executive director, and so we had the vision to bring all of our radio staff together. At that time, it was a pretty small staff actually, and do an annual training in Kampala. And I really wanted to bring them out of the country. We could have done it in South Sudan, but I wanted to bring them out of the country because I really believed in the importance of exposure, giving them, expanding their world. They'd never been in a place that had a bunch of cars and paved roads and elevators and all kinds of things. And so bringing them out, we got to host them for several weeks and, let them have foods they'd never tried and experience things. We took them to the zoo or took them to the beach and, different things that they'd never experienced. That's critical because they're supposed to be visionaries for the country. How can you be a visionary if you've never experienced anything new, And so by giving them that exposure, now they can be talking to, their nation about what's possible. And so I loved that. And so that was the radio training, but it was just radio staff, of course. And then that kind of morphed into when I became executive director, I wanted to carry that on, but expand it to all of our leaders. And really, our leadership has grown a lot, just numerically, because our programs have grown a lot, and we've handed things off to the South Sudanese. When I became executive director, we didn't have a single South Sudanese manager. And so, we couldn't have had a leadership retreat. That would have been all Americans. But as we started raising up South Sudanese and promoting within and giving them more responsibilities, it became more and more important. So it's been in the last 6 years. I think 6 years ago, 2019 was the first year we did it. So.
Oh, wow. Okay, so When I think of the retreat too, I think of it being such an investment in our staff too, because one, we have Mavolo, Tanj, Awil, and then our other stations too, and it's like they don't always get to spend time together. So then when you get to bring them out of their comfort zone, quote unquote, in their areas, and then to go to another nation, another country, to experience it together, it's kind of like going to camp. Like they're I don't know. Yeah, when you're at camp, you just experience something so unique and you get to connect on a deeper level.
Oh, for sure. Getting out of your own context is huge. And, sleeping together, I mean, that sounds weird. Just, I mean, like being in the same place, going to bed at night, and then waking up the next morning and you're with the same people, you're staying in that same zone. It's just totally different than if you go home and then come back to a place. And that's true for all of us, like you're saying, the camp experience or, missions conferences or other things, like getting out of our context for multiple days is a big deal. And you hit on a huge point, and that is bringing them together from, all the different locations, different tribes, different locations, and different strengths and weaknesses and backgrounds and all these things. And it's been so rich, and it's gotten better every single year. And our leadership retreats are indicative of the growth of every village. For me, they're kind of the litmus test of how are we doing. And I see every year the leaders taking on more ownership of the vision. When we first started this out, it was primarily about bringing them together with each other, so that they had were growing in mutual trust and appreciation and respect for one another. So they could just kind of. It was also in those first couple of years, it was more about Brad kind of speaking into our work processes, ministry processes of best practices. Here's what we do. Here's what we need to do. But still, then they go back to the locations, and it was primarily about equipping them to do their jobs. Well, the last several years, it's grown way beyond that, because now, not only do we've got the week-long leadership retreat with all of our managers together, and that's, close to 20 people typically. But then the second week we spend traveling around South Sudan to our various locations with our top level leaders, typically 5 or thereabouts. And so now, they're going to different parts of the country, other places where team members are working, but also potential new locations for growth. And they're leading that out. And now suddenly our leaders have a vision for way beyond just their task, their location, their area, but they have a vision for their nation. And I see how our leaders are, we have breakout sessions where we're divided by location, or we're divided by program area. We do both at different times to work through different issues, and they're leading those discussions more and more and more. And it's just amazing. And we made a huge switch. Our country director, Daniel Lawal, has been such a solid leader for so many years. That's been awesome. But we made a big jump this year when we now have a radio specialist and a water specialist. And we've talked about John Lawal and Archangelo Adup on our podcast before. But those guys now are, ensuring best practices across all the locations in their respective areas in water and radio. And that added a whole nother level of leadership, local leadership, to our retreat, and it's it's really amazing, and so we continue from time to time. We've got new managers that come, and it's their first time, and so it's a great way to kind of integrate them into our DNA, into our culture. Here's what we're about, and then we've got, of course, managers that have come year after year after year, and it's just helping refresh, refine, build up, give them more leadership opportunity, and we cover topics, like we always have a lot of emphasis on spiritual growth, so we'll have extended devotion times, and we've covered a lot of topics on leadership, especially, but humility, or what it looks like to be a godly leader in your context. And so servant leadership, we focus a lot of those because, A, obviously it's very important to them doing their jobs well, being good leaders, but B, it's so countercultural. Unfortunately, South Sudan has very, very little model of good leaders in a geopolitical sense, in a church sense, in a community sense, in a family sense. There's just very, very few healthy leaders that are leading well, with grace, with a Christ-like attitude. It's mostly about power and control and what can I get from it. And so speaking into that year after year it's shifting. And we have a wonderful leader in Daniel Lawal who models that so well. He lives the talk. And through the years, our staff, I've seen Daniel rub off on them, and our culture is very different. We lead our organization much differently than most organizations that work in South Sudan, and our staff say that. It's not just me. They say that we're very different in the way we approach things, and I'm just proud of it. So I love that. I think, the original question for today is who attends the retreat. And, it's a great thing. But we want to see this part change, Tiana, as you know. So far, all of our leadership retreats have been exclusively male, 100%. We don't have a single female manager on our staff. We've talked about that desire to change that. It's hard. It's an uphill climb in South Sudan because very few women have any education. And then even if they have an education, they're married and their husband is ultimately the boss and he has to be very supportive. But even if you have a supportive husband that allows his wife to work, traveling away from home for several days, it's just very few husbands are going to let their wives do that. There's responsibilities at home with the children, with all kinds of chores and all kinds of things. It is not easy, but we're going to keep fighting against that. And so, we do have a hope and a plan, a specific plan next year to try to bring and promote our first female manager and have her be a part of the retreat. It'll be little bit by little, but we have, water managers, radio managers, compound managers, and then area managers for our locations. Then we've got our specialists, and then country director, of course. We'd love to get to the point where our discipleship program has grown so much. We'd love to have discipleship managers who are overseeing the outreach events and the pastor training opportunities and Bible institutes and conferences and such. And so that's a goal, and that'll just continue to expand the number of leaders we have. We want to start promoting some staff in our repeater tower locations to take on management. Right now, it's all been kind of a flat structure. So we've got a repeater tower in Mario Bay and a repeater tower in Napagog. We'd love to have some managers from those locations represented. And then, of course, as we expand into new locations, we'd like to bring on staff. And that's one thing we've seen is it's such a wonderful orientation for new people because, they get to spend a week with our leaders and they see how it's done, how we do it. And you can sit down and do a training on site with them, do a PowerPoint or whatever orientation you want. And those things are not bad. But it's really hard to catch the culture unless you get away. So.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, I could highlight so many things that you said. One in reference to, next year, Lord willing, we have a female staff manager. That gets me so excited. But mostly just because, you have to start somewhere, and God's going to provide and God's going to bring, just like I feel like every village really kind of started a long time ago with, Daniel Lawal, and look at him now, and so that we get to be part of that change, and that gets me really excited.
Yeah, and I think that, a few years, God knows the right timing. A few years ago, if we tried this, I don't think our staff, our other leaders would have been ready to welcome a female manager. Again, not that they're bad men, but they're part of their culture, which does not expect women to lead, and, when you, it doesn't even matter about position. If there's anything relating to food, the woman, whether she's a manager or not, is expected to go to the kitchen and help, and the men don't at all because of cultural, norms and things of that nature. Well, I think our staff have grown a lot, and we've talked very openly with them about goals towards this type of growth, so that when it happens, I think they'll be ready. And that's exciting as well. So it's not just, there's so many different dynamics to consider. And God knows the right timing and the right way, and so I love that. With the leadership retreats, like I said, we focus a lot on the spiritual, but then we, talk a lot about big picture vision of where we're headed, what we want to focus on, what are our core values as an organization. We have a lot of fun discussion. The guys are very competitive, so they love the games. We do a lot of Bible trivia. That's one that I take under my wing because I love Bible trivia myself, and every year, they really look forward to it, and we have prizes, simple prizes, and it's so fun, and I've expanded it where, typically I'm doing probably 3 sets of maybe 20 trivia questions on over different days, and they're very challenging, and I bring like pastors from the United States, and they're part of the retreat or whatever, and they're struggling to get all the answers right. They're pretty.
They're hard.
They're hard trivia, and so it's fun, honestly, because I have to make it so hard, because if I made it somewhat more obtainable, it would be unfair, because we do have a few staff members that have just a ton more education than others, and so they're so hard that it's kind of an even playing field. You really don't know, but what I like is that the South Sudanese are competitive and they like winning and all that, but I've had multiple staff members that say that the trivia have prompted them. They've realized, I want to study the scriptures more, for themselves. And maybe they don't even realize how hard these are. And so they think, I should know these things. and I love that. It drives them towards study. So that's a fun one. We also just do like fun team building games. Sometimes the games are just to make everybody laugh at each other because they love laughing at themselves. Like we'll do like Pictionary or other things where, some guys are terrible at drawing. I'm not good myself. And they just laugh at each other like, you're terrible. And that's fun. Or,
it's so great.
Or we've done like challenges where, you've got an egg and you have to build with straws and some, toothpicks or other things and build a shell for the egg and drop it off the second floor and it survived. Things like that. And those are all fun. I think those are fun even in America. I've been a part of those types of things over the years with retreats, but they're really fun there because the guys haven't grown up in a corporate America world. So a lot of these things are brand new to them, and they get really excited and they kind of act like little boys sometimes.
Well, I think of too, like America, or just with us, like let's say we have to do it at some retreat or something like that. Like we're kind of like embarrassed, we're shy, but the South Sudanese don't have that at all. So they're just like fully like, let's do it, let's have fun.
Yes.
Yeah,
for sure. So anyway, that's those game times are fun. We eat great food. We've been historically doing it at our team house in Kampala, Uganda, where every village had a house for 18 years. And we have a wonderful housekeeper there who makes amazing food. And once again, that's intentional. Sometimes she'll make food that the South Sudanese are familiar with, but a lot of times she doesn't. And I wanted it to be that way because I want the South Sudanese to get exposed. Because when we first brought them, they would complain about the food so much. If it wasn't just sorghum and their combo, their type of sauce that they're used to in South Sudan, they'd complain about the food because that's all they knew. Well, now, they're getting, chicken strips or fajitas or, our housekeeper in Kampala is amazing. She makes amazing stuff from scratch. And the guys just, pile it on and eat it. And so I love that. And then you have some staff members that it's just funny. They again, because of their lack of exposure, they've been in the village. They don't have a concept for what food mixes with what food or doesn't, and they'll literally just pile their plate with whatever food is on the table, not recognizing there's different things. So this last trip, I think it was fajitas, and so we had beef fajitas, and of course there's some guacamole and some pico de gallo that's all fresh. It's great. That all makes sense. He piles it on top of a tortilla of sorts. It's like a chapati, which is a tortilla, and all that. And then our housekeeper makes a lot ranch dressing because there's carrots and cucumbers and other things, fresh, things. But he just piles on the ranch. Well, that's not so bad, ranch on fajitas. But then there was, I don't remember why, but there was syrup on the table as well. I think because the morning we'd had pancakes or something. So he just took a bunch of syrup and just poured it over top of the ranch on top of the fajitas.
Oh, no. But
the amazing thing about the South Sudanese, they don't have the exposure to know that you don't do that. But what's more amazing to me is that he eats it all, doesn't complain, and doesn't think that it's gross. It's just it's food. And we all just kind of, those of us that know, we just laugh. He's such a funny guy anyway. But I don't know. I love that. But those are things. We had ice cream 2 years ago, I think, after one of our meals. And one of the staff members is eating it for the very first time. He's never had ice cream. He's never had anything cold in his mouth, if you think about it. There's no refrigeration in South Sudan. So nothing ever has been cold in his mouth, and he's eating it, and he's like trying to figure it out. And he sees the consistency, and he's like, well, it kind of looks like lotion. He's trying to describe that, but I don't remember like the cold part. He was trying to describe something that like pinches you or hurts you. I don't remember. It's just so funny.
Yes.
So anyway,
I love it. Oh man, I see why it is your favorite time of the year. And so, but also I kind of wanted to hit on too, because you even like bring them out. So I think you've brought them to the zoo even before.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and you think it's Africa. They all know like these animals. And, South Sudan, of course, historically did have a lot of these animals. Elephants and, all the monkeys and apes and, even lions. But because of all the years of war, there's very, very little wildlife in South Sudan that's just out. Other than snakes, lots of snakes. And so this was the first time for these guys to ever see lots of these animals. I mean, and some of them had read about it, of course, but that's the ones that have been to school. Of course, I'm sure they've heard of lions and such, but they grew up in a world without the internet, without pictures, so they hear about these things but haven't seen them. And, that's fun. Watching the chimpanzees is always just so funny. Just, like, they were like, oh, they look like little men, just the way they scratch themselves and, sit and all that. And so it is fun. And then one of the first years, there was a huge python that they kept in the zoo. I mean, huge. It was, I don't know, it was probably 12-foot long python or something. I don't know, it was long. And we happened to be there the day they brought it out. I've never seen it before or after this, but they had brought it out. And they were letting, guests put it around their neck if they wanted. And, for me, it's not a big deal. I mean, I don't like snakes myself, but I also know that the python's totally safe. He's well fed. He's not going to do anything. And I was with my young kids at the time. And so we all put the snake around, and the South Sudanese thought it was crazy. You don't mess with snakes, right?
Yeah.
And we had a few staff members that were brave enough to put on their neck. And actually, this retreat, Tiana, that was probably 6 years ago. Or it was a long time ago. Maybe it was during the radio training. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But just this year, I pulled out some of those old pictures and was showing the guys, and we were reliving those memories. And so that's fun too.
Oh, that's
we've been
so
doing
fun.
this for so long, and we were bringing it up. And so, it's so fun. And yet, I go back to what I said at the very beginning. It's more than just fun. It is intentional. This is life on life discipleship. It is leadership development. We are primarily a leadership development organization, and we happen to work in the areas of water, radio, and discipleship. But leadership development is what we do to change this nation, and these leaders are being developed, and so I would say, out of all the money we spend in a year, this retreat is one of the most important ways we spend that money to make it happen, and it is an investment because it's not cheap to bring them all out. We've got to get them passports and visas and, all the travel and the accommodations and the food. But man, it pays such dividends when they go back home. So
much. I just see there's such a value to this retreat, not just, I think, for the fun or for the unity, but also, like you said, pouring into them spiritually. I think, because the leaders are the faces of the change in the area, and representing Christ and being ambassadors, and also caring for their families. So I just see it's the value so much.
Yeah, it's been good. And then from the American side, we've been able to bring some board members or some other team members to be part of that retreat. We do a lot of it in-house because it's so important for us. It's about vision casting and culture, but it's also great to get an outside perspective. When we've had leaders from other organizations come and speak, we've had local pastors come and speak from Uganda or other things, and that's always been so rich as well. So it's been a huge highlight of my life, and God willing, it continues long into the future.
Oh, I love it. All right, well, here is a little teaser into next episode's question that the special guest is actually going to be sharing a little bit about his time at the leadership retreat. So stay tuned as we answer the question, why did you decide to join a short-term trip? Take care.